January 29th, 2025. The time is now 6 p.m. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required by law. Specifically, notice of this meeting was emailed to the Daily Record and Morris Newsbee on January 17th, 2025, and posted on the Township of Morris website. The agenda and resolutions for the meeting are available on morristownship.com under the Agenda Center. Certain portions of this meeting may be closed to the public for the purpose of personnel and/or other matters as outlined in the Sunshine Law. Notice to members of the governing body and township staff. Any use of electronic devices during this meeting shall be used solely for the purpose of township business, and any communications are subject to the Open Public Records Act. Mayor, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Griselle. Absent.
Here.
Oh, here, virtually. Okay. Mr. Dorfy.
Yes, virtually.
Mr. Janata.
Here.
Mr. Ravitz.
Here.
Mayor Griglia.
Here. Will you please now stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. On behalf of the Township Committee, we would like to have a moment of silence in remembrance of former committeeman Joseph Cavanelli. Thank you. And we send condolences to the Cavanelli family, and we thank Mr. Cavanelli for his service to the township. At this time, we're actually going to go open our first public commentary. There are currently 3 members of the public joining us on Zoom and 2 members in person. We will take comments from in-person attendees first and then switch over to Zoom. Please virtually raise your hand in Zoom if you would like to speak. Please state your name and address for the record before speaking. Please note your comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. If you have questions you would like answered, your remaining time to speak will be yielded back for this purpose. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak?
Madam Mayor, my name is Steve Laris. I live over at 20 Oak Park Drive for almost 28 years. And I just want to say that Mr. Quinn, every time I've spoken to him, even today, we spent time on the phone together. He's been exceedingly helpful. And I just want to take a moment to thank Jeff for his email that he sends out all the time at his own expense to keep the public apprised of what's going on in the town. It's very nice of him. First time I've ever come here in 28 years that I live in the township. But I want to complain about the traffic on Woodruff Road. The town has grown. We have new sidewalks that have been put in, and people are using that as a cutoff to get home or go to work. And it really is becoming increasingly dangerous. More and more people walk across that street every day. My wife walks across the street walking our dog, and more people are driving there faster and faster every day. I've talked to the police chief. He's given me a couple of sergeants that have helped, and they've put up some speed signs, and they've actually put police officers and cars there. And I'm sure that's been helpful. But we've done this for probably 6 or 7 years now. I've called different police chiefs over the course of the past 6 or 7 years, and we still have a problem. I just want the whole committee to be aware that there's a problem on Woodruff Road, because God forbid a child is hit, or a dog, or an adult. We have a lot of older people now in our neighborhood, and I think the whole committee needs to be apprised that this is not a major road. This is, I think it's 30 miles an hour is posted there, and people drive there faster and faster every day, every month, every year. Maybe we could think about more signage. What I'd like the township to consider is maybe an ordinance to bring speed bumps to the township. I know we don't have any speed bumps in the township, but that would be a perfect place to start, because it's very dangerous and it has become almost like a major road, and it's not. The other thing that I want the town to consider is Columbia Turnpike and Woodruff Road. You recently had a police officer, someone who's trained to drive at high speeds in a car that's designed to drive at high speeds with special suspension, special brakes, and special tires, and the car flipped over. So we really have, as a town, we really have to be concerned about that corner. There's constantly, we constantly have a problem with accidents over there. And it was a trained police officer that had that problem. What if there was a young mother with 3 or 4 kids in a minivan? What if it was an older person? My neighbor was hit right on that corner riding her bicycle just a few years ago. So the township really has to take these 2 areas into consideration to make some major decisions, put some pressure on the county, maybe even some pressure on the state. This is a problem. And that's really about it. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you very much for your time you spend on the township. I realize there's a lot of other things that you'd like to do than listen to me, but I'm here because someone's going to get hurt there, and it needs to be tended to. Thank you very much.
We absolutely thank you for your concerns, and we will look into it. And I know that there's been some traffic studies already done there, but we can continue to look at it. And we too want to do everything we can to make it as safe as possible.
Mayor, have we shared the traffic calming policy with this gentleman about how residents can request traffic calming devices in their neighborhood, including speed tables?
We certainly can, and
Okay.
not only share it with you, we can actually, I thought it was posted, the traffic calming policy. Even if it's on the website, we can get it to you specifically. You're welcome. Anybody else from the public? Seeing no hands raised on Zoom, can I get a motion to close public comment?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please read the closed session resolution.
Resolution 50-25, authorizing the governing body to conduct a closed meeting as defined in the Open Public Meeting Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231. Whereas the Open Public Meeting Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas the Township Committee is of that opinion that such circumstances presently exist. And whereas the Township Committee wishes to discuss the following: affordable housing and discussion of township property.
May I have a motion to approve the closed session resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Dorfey,
Yes.
Mr. Janata,
Yes.
Mr. Gazelle,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor Griglia.
Yes. We will now move into closed session and plan to resume the regular meeting at 6:30. Please note, this closed session may resume after the regular meeting. So if we could just ask the public, if you could just maybe wait outside,
I can give them a room if they like. I can get in this big
I call to order this regular meeting of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris. This Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. The time is now 6:47 p.m. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required by law. Specifically, notice of this meeting was emailed to the Daily Record and the Morris News Bee on January 17th, 2025, and posted on the Township of Morris website. The agenda and resolutions for the meeting are available on morristownship.com under Agenda Center. Certain portions of this meeting may be closed to the public for the purpose of personnel and/or other matters as outlined in the Sunshine Law. Tonight, we have one resolution on our agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the title of Resolution 51-25 into the record.
Resolution pursuant to the amendment to the amended Fair Housing Act, committing the township to round 4, present and prospective need affordable housing obligations.
Before we begin, I want to remind everybody that in March of 2024 is when the New Jersey State Legislature put forth the affordable housing process and requirements that we'd be faced with. Then in September, at the end of September, here at the township, we did a special meeting and we did an educational session for the public on the affordable housing process and what it would look like going forward. And then on October 18th, what, I forgot. Oh, on October 18th is when the numbers were released, and we were given the number 571. So tonight, we have a special meeting where we need to adopt our resolution, but we have with us our planner, Paul Phillips, and Liz Lehaney, and our attorney, Steve Warner. And what we are going to do tonight is an assessment and recommendations for Morris Township regarding round 4, the present and prospective needs, affordable housing obligations. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and then afterwards we will have public comment.
Mayor, before you do that, do we need a roll call? I see it on the agenda for a second roll call.
Probably do, because
Yeah, because Jeff was here, now he's not.
Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Committeeman Jorphy.
Mr. Gazelle, absent. Mr. Jorphy,
Here.
Mr. Janata,
Here.
Mr. Ravitz.
Here.
And Mayor Gurglia.
Here.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Township Committee members. As you noted, I am Liz Laney. I work at Phillips Price, and I and my partner Paul Phillips are the planners for the township. As part of this resolution that you're adopting tonight, it refers to an Exhibit A. And Exhibit A was prepared by our firm, dated January 29th, 2025, which provides sort of the background and substantiation for the numbers that you are adopting tonight regarding the township's affordable housing obligation. As you noted, we are in the 4th round of affordable housing. This is the 2025 to 2035 round of affordable housing, number 4. And in March of 2024, Governor Murphy the Fair Housing Act was amended with some new parameters and requirements for each municipality. As part of the amended FHA, there was a 6-month, the Department of Community Affairs, DCA, had 6 months to reveal or release the affordable housing obligations, not only for the state, but for the regions and then for each municipality. DCA did that on October 18th, 2024. They estimated that the state as a whole had an obligation in this next 10 years to provide just short of 86,000 affordable housing units. Then DCA divided that, distributed those 86,000 units among 6, still called COA regions. Morris is in Region 2, which is in Morris County, obviously, along with Warren, Union, and Essex. So within Region 2, of that 86,000, about 20,500 was attributed to Region 2. And then within that, as the mayor noted, 500 a present need obligation of 9 units was just attributed to Morris, and an obligation to provide in the next 10 years 571 new low and moderate income housing units. So the one critical thing with the amended FHA, which is different from earlier rounds of the affordable housing law, is that the numbers DCA released or assigned Morris Township are not binding, and the township has an opportunity to review the data that went into calculating those numbers and come up with a determination of what they believe their obligation is. The all municipalities had between the October 18th release and January 31st, 2025 to adopt a binding resolution as to what those numbers, what the municipality believes those numbers are, which is why we're here tonight. So to start with the rehabilitation obligation, that's the existing units in the community that are perhaps in need of rehabilitation or some sort of renovations that are low and moderate income units. The obligation assigned Morris was 9. And we have no problem. We don't recommend that the township challenge that number. That seems reasonable to us and based on the data. The prospective need obligation is an allocation of that 20,500 Region 2 number, that it's an allocation factor that is an average of 3 individual factors. There is the income capacity factor, which essentially it's a not complicated calculation, but it's essentially assigned to or designed to sort of shift affordable housing obligations to municipalities with higher household incomes. The factor for Morris Township, let me just see, was 2.34%. We looked at those numbers. We looked at the data that was used to calculate those numbers. We don't think that there's any merit in challenging those numbers of that factor. The next is the equalized non-residential evaluation factor, which looks at the change in the non-equalized valuation between 1999 and 2023. Again, we had actually had the municipal tax assessor look at the data that DCA used, and he found it to be correct. And so that factor for Morris is 0.63%. And again, we don't recommend that you challenge that. Now, the third factor that is used is the land capacity factor. And that is a measure of the developable land within the municipality. Developable is never defined anywhere in either the amended FHA or in any of the materials that DCA released along with their numbers. Morris had a high land capacity factor. It was 5.34%, and about 288 acres was considered developable. So in November, the end of November, DCA, after many requests, issued the mapping that they used, showing the parcels or showing the areas that they considered developable within each municipality. So we have now gone through parcel by parcel, looking at what DCA used to get to that total. And we're able to, we found certain things like Jockey Hollow National Park, Fort Nonsense, the backyards of homes in Harding and in Florham Park, among other things that were sort of easy to say, listen, that's not developable. And there were some other factors, things in the floodway, things that were on the Rossi, things that are open space, schools, churches, utilities, et cetera, railroads. So we were able to lower that almost 288 acre developable land down to just over 79 developable acres. That lowered our land capacity factor from 5.3 or 5.34 to say 5.37, I apologize, to 1.5%. And so once all of those factors were averaged, again, we're keeping the first two, we're just challenging the land capacity. We were able to estimate that Morris Township's obligation is not the 571, it's more realistically the 308 unit obligation. And so what we would recommend to you tonight is that you adopt a resolution indicating that you have the present need obligation of 9 and you have a prospective 2025 to 2035 obligation of 308 units.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate all the hard work everybody did on this. We know how much time and effort you had to put into it. Are there any comments from anybody on the committee, comments or concerns?
No, I just want to echo what you had said, that thank you for the extensive analysis that was done. And knock on wood, DCA will accept our number.
I would just add, again, thank you for everything. I would just, and I know the committee will do this, but I just ask that we maintain our open communications with our residents and providing updates through email or through information sessions or presentations at meetings to make sure everyone continues to be in the loop of this process, because it is not only time consuming, but confusing We owe it to the residents to make sure they know about everything that's going on every step of the way. So I'm pleased that we had an information session in September and that we've been sending emails out, and I just encourage us to continue doing so.
These documents will be up on the website tomorrow. We are obligated to.
I was going to say, if I may, as part of the process for the benefit of the public, assuming the adoption of the resolution with the report that Mr. Haney and Mr. Phillips prepared, we will be putting that on the website within 48 hours of adoption, and it will be formally filed. I'm not speaking into the mic, my apologies. I rarely need it. We'll be submitting the resolution with the memorandum from our planners, along with what is called a declaratory judgment complaint. That is the procedural mechanism by which all of this information is to be submitted to the Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program, which will be overseeing the process if and when there is a challenge of our binding number that we set forth in our resolution. And if there is such a challenge, how it will be resolved. And that would all play out very quickly, frankly. Statutorily, it's required, as the governing body knows, to be done. Any challenges, if they are to be made, would have to be very specific and particular and made by the end of February. And the resolution of any such challenge would have to occur through the Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program process by the end of March 2025 with respect to each of those months. So it's envisioned to be a very quick process, hopefully, as was implied. There is no challenge, so we don't have to worry about that process. But this is the first step, and we will, once adopted, the resolution with the report, once submitted to the program, once posted on the website, we will continue our township as we have through the first, second, and third rounds. We will continue to maintain our immunity from any exclusionary zoning litigation, including any builder's remedy lawsuits, which is paramount, along with providing our fair share, but only our fair share, in my opinion, of affordable housing units.
Thank you. And for anybody, we said this earlier, but if you did miss the September session, if you just tuned in tonight, anybody from the public already posted on the website, you can go back to the original educational session, which is a lot of detail on this very complicated process. So we urge you to do that. And then these documents will all be posted within a day or so. Any other questions or comments from anybody?
Once we submit it, what's the timetable when we get back? And when do we expect anything from the state?
As what would happen is we'll wait till the end of February, and if there's no challenge, then our binding resolution and our numbers, our prospective need number, and our present need number, will be not only presumptively valid, but they will be our number, and we will proceed accordingly with the next step, which is how we will plan to satisfy our obligation for the fourth round.
Yeah, I just want to add, Committee Man, I don't think the challenge will come from the state. I don't think DCA is
no.
making the challenge. It'll come
No.
from what's considered an interested party, and that's Fair Share Housing Corporation or a developer who has the ability to build affordable housing within our municipality.
Right. DCA's obligation is completed, as I understand it, and I believe DCA has taken the position that their obligation is completed. So, as I have been told.
Good to know.
Seeing no other comments, again, we just can't thank you enough for all your hard work and really appreciate it. Madam Clerk, may I have a motion to approve resolution number 51-24?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't know if there's taking a question or not.
Do we do that before or after?
Mayor, that's about my favorite. That's up to you, Mayor.
Sure.
So I'm asked you open the public comment session
Okay.
for the second time.
I move we open the public comments.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I am Alan McAlpin. I live at 5 Armstrong Road. And first, I'd like to thank you for the information tonight. And if I understood you correctly, it will be added to the information that's already now on the website, correct?
Correct.
Correct. When you're going through this process, and this is a question I had anybody done a cash flow analysis as what this would mean for the township over the next 10 or 15 years? Quite obviously, costs are going to rise considerably. Just to mention a couple obvious things, probably schools, roads, sewers, water needs, and the like. Has anybody taken a look at what the revenue side of all that would be and how we would look 10 to 15 years from now? Are we going to be cash flow positive or are we going to be cash flow negative? You might also want to focus on a couple other things. You have to make some assumptions, we always do when we do these things, about the base, the residential base here. Now, if the residential base gets angered, they're going to move to Arizona or Sparta or someplace else. And what does that do to some of your calculations? I don't need an answer right now. I just need some assurance that someone's going to sit down and try to make this thing some economic sense. I don't have enough information to do it, but you all should. Any questions for me? That's my question is, do you have it? And are you prepared to do it? That's my question.
We don't obviously have that analysis yet. And if we're looking over like a 10-year period, and again, because so many things are still unknown as to what this will be. That being said, and the other committee members can weigh in here. I do believe that what we're doing as a township is looking at this in the most positive way possible, and in not only educating the residents, but with the understanding that I believe the township will continue to thrive and be a really good place to live. I don't see people moving out of Morris Township to other parts of the country because we're falling in line just like everybody else, not only in the state of New Jersey, but throughout the country. There's going to be more development and there's affordable housing needed everywhere. So again, yes, we will definitely continue to look at it. But to answer that question right now,
Thank you. It'd be comforting to know that this process was being addressed. Thank you.
absolutely. Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak? I see one hand raised on Zoom. Kathy Wilson.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Kathy Wilson, 20 Beechwood Drive. I have a couple of questions. The information that, am I on?
Yes.
Yes.
The information that DCA shared with the township about how they made the calculation on the land use factor, is there a report that they wrote, or how was that information communicated to the township?
It's on their website, Kathy.
It's on the DCA website?
Yeah, if you just Google fourth round DCA number, it's the first link that comes up. I'm actually looking at it now on my computer because the gentleman mentioned Sparta and they have a 427 unit obligation. So that's, it's
So
stable.
this is different than their general report where they said how they calculated for every town, right?
No, they say they calculate it for every town. They list everybody's factors, and then our planner, along with Mr. Warner, either filed an open request or just got it voluntarily from DCA, and they provided the backup for Morris Township's row in that report.
Okay, but so the report that we're talking about here is on the DCA website.
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as posting items about fourth round affordable housing, it'll be posted on our township website. Is there any thought about where? It makes sense to me to be on the land use section, which is where is that where it will be, or can you give any guidance on where the documents will be housed?
It'll be on the affordable housing page with all of the other documents for affordable housing, including the presentations.
Okay. All right. And, one final question. Once the number is agreed upon, what are the next steps after that? What is the process for developing plans to address how the obligations are met? I guess I'm thinking of the third round where there was the settlement agreement and it was spelled out in the settlement agreement what numbers were to be built in what locations. I'm not clear if there's a process for that on the fourth round once the number is agreed upon.
So Kathy, I'll start and then I can also turn over to Mr. Warner if he has anything to add. So the fourth round is be very different than the third round. It's be a much more transparent process. It involves the planning board rather than a settlement agreement. It's going to happen quickly. There's going to be a vacant land adjustment, but the planning board is going to come up with the element and it has to be approved by the governing body, but it's not going to be in a room with Fair Share Housing and negotiating a settlement agreement. The township's going to have control over the plan and it'll be presented in public. And I don't know if Mr. Warner wants to add anything. To that.
Just a few things. First and foremost being, I concur exactly with Township Attorney Cantor. Just to be a little more specific, there are deadlines that are baked into the statute. And as a reminder, by June 30 of this year, we are, and all municipalities are, to have our housing element fair share plan adopted by our planning board, which sets forth the mechanisms by which we will be effectuating and satisfying our affordable housing obligation, including our prospective need number for the next 10 years, as well as to have draft implementation ordinances, how we would go about doing that through governing body ordinances to satisfy that obligation. There is then a period thereafter in which interested parties could challenge that plan, should they so desire. It's only a couple of months that they have to do that, if I recall correctly, by the end of August. And then there is only a few month period of time thereafter for those challenges, if they occur, or that challenge, if it occurs, to be resolved with an end date, if you will, of March 2026 for any and all challenged housing element and fair share plans and implementation ordinances to be, by that point, resolved and adopted so that the fourth round proceeds expeditiously at that point, the latest. I hope that helps give some timeframes.
Yeah.
And the only thing I'll add to that, Kathy, is we don't know the exact process yet. We have the deadlines, and it's subject to whatever additional procedural requirements that are put into place. But that's the guidance we have currently.
Yeah. If I may, we're dovetailing after our respective dovetails, but it's never been done before, so to speak. But the process as envisioned in the Administrative Office of the Court's Directive 14-24 for any challenge is similar to the process that's envisioned for any challenge to our number that will be adopted this evening, if there is one. And that is, it goes before the Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program. There would be an opportunity for settlement conference discussions and ultimately a resolution either by that program or ultimately through the Mount Laurel judges for each vicinage to be adopted. But I concur with Mr. Cantor. It's a much more transparent approach. It's we do it first, so to speak, and if it's challenged, it's challenged. If it's not, it's not. And if it's challenged, it's resolved fairly quickly and made public throughout the entire process. So.
Thank you. So the housing element then goes through the planning board, right? And there's opportunity for public comment during the planning board process. and then it comes back to the governing body for final approval? Is that how it would work?
So we're not all going to swear to it because it could change, but that's certainly the way it looks. I mean, all planning board meetings are, public. I don't know if they're going to go into closed session for any of this or not. I presume not, but that's the current process. But it's subject to further procedures that may be enacted. So, well, I think that's what we all think the process is going to be, and that's current, but it's subject to additional procedures.
Yeah, I concur. The expectation is, as always, the planning board, the gatekeepers of the master plan, will have ultimately a public hearing and adoption of a housing element fair share plan. But yes, this fourth round is unlike the third round and unlike the first and second round.
Yeah.
So, there are expectations, but nobody knows exactly for sure everything that's going to happen and how it's going to happen.
Well, thank you. And I know it's a lot of work and I appreciate all that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands raised and nobody else from the public who would like to speak, is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve resolution number 51-24?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mr. Janata.
Yes.
Mr. Gazelle.
Yes.
Mr. Dorfy.
Yes.
Mayor Gurglia.
Yes. It is now 7:15. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Before we adjourn the special meeting, I would like to, because we missed it earlier, could we now take a moment of silence in remembrance of Rabbi Herson, who was a very dedicated rabbi to our community and is sorely missed? Please stand, and if we could have a moment of silence. Thank you. It is now 7:15. Can I have a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next regular Township Committee meeting is Wednesday, February 19th, 2025 at 7 p.m. 5 p.m. closed in the municipal building here at 50 Woodland Avenue. Thank you and have a great night.